Hello photographers! So we're here at the northeast coast in the UK, Flamborough, and I'm trying to get a sunset picture at the coast. I was going to take this scene here, which is obviously a really lovely scene, but the only thing is the light's not great at sunset because it's setting over that way. It's probably better at sunrise. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to get a few quick shots here, just maybe scout it out for coming back at another time. And I'm actually going to head over that way and take some pictures of the cliffs with the sun setting behind, and I think that'll look really good. So let's go. As usual in the recent weeks, I'm using my new Z7 camera with the 24-70mm f4 lens, and I'm going to be using a filter today. It's just a UV filter. Normally I don't use a UV filter because I just want to have as less things as possible between my lens and the subject I'm photographing, but because we're at the coast, sometimes you get sand flying around and you don't want that getting on you, scratching your front element. So yeah, I've just got a clear UV lens on there, filter, sorry. And we're up on the cliff, so it's not too bad to be honest, but I'm not taking any chances, especially with my new lens, so that'll keep it nice and protected. So let's go and get some pictures. So as you can see, it's very cloudy, it's not looking great. I'm going to have to try and maybe go for something moody looking now, maybe even black and white. My tripod, it's just a travel tripod, so it's not the best. It is really light to carry, that's good, but it's not the sturdiest, and it is a little bit windy. But I've put my bag, I've got this really cool hook on the bottom, so I've put my bag on for a bit of extra weight and stability. And I'm just going to try and use like a slow shutter speed. I'm going to have to use fairly slow at this time anyway, it's getting darker now. And maybe just kind of flatten the water out with the slow shutter speed, get it nice and soft, and yeah, see what we can do. Okay, so hope you can hear me, it's very windy. Ironically, we've come back to where we started. Although the sun's not setting in this direction, the sky's just brighter and just looks that little bit better. And I do like this spot, I like the location, the look of that outcrop of rocks there with the archway. So yeah, see what we can get here. At the moment I'm at an f-stop of 9. That's giving me, I'm in aperture priority mode, so that's giving me about 1/4 second shutter speed, and I've got ISO 64. I don't have a remote for this Z7 yet, so I'm just using the 2-second timer, just so that it reduces any chance of vibration. Although inevitably we are going to get a little bit of vibration just because of the wind. But it does have the in-body stabilisation, so we might be okay. We're getting a little bit of rain now, so a little tip now. Bring your trusty tea towel with you, and that way when it starts to rain you can wipe your camera down a little bit. I'm just going to put the tea towel over just to protect it. There you go, cheap, multi-purpose. Does the job. And it's always a good idea to just turn around as well, because you know, you might be looking into an amazing scene and thinking, oh, I get some great photos, but then sometimes you just need to turn around, there's an even better scene. So at the moment, I mean, the weather conditions are still not great, but the sun is setting over in that direction, even though there's loads of cloud. And we've got like the lighthouse now, and also with these grasses as well, we might be able to get like a really moody shot, just with the grasses slightly blurred with a slightly slower shutter speed. The clouds with a little bit of light breaking through, and then obviously the lighthouse is the focus of attention. I'm not using my tripod. I'm just going to bump up the ISO a bit, because I just want to capture this nice and quick now. I might try out the tripod in a second. So I'm at an f-stop of 5, ISO 640. It's 1/160th of a second. Now I'm going to try some at f7.1. That gives me a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. ISO 640 still. Now we'll just try one with the tripod, I think. Sort that leg out. Looking quite nice. It's an interesting sky. The lighthouse is cool. We've got the grasses. Yeah, not bad. So we're well into blue hour now. It's actually looking all right now. The clouds have cleared a bit, and we've got that bit of like orangey light, the last fading light of sunset coming through. It's a shame it wasn't like this earlier when we actually had golden hour and the sun was really going down. But I've got a few shots just now in blue hour with that kind of golden area just above the cliffs. I mean, the cliffs themselves are going to look a bit dark, but we might be able to pull that up in Lightroom, the shadows. And we might end up with something that was alright. So I think what I've learned is that, you know, it pays to just stay behind even when the sun's gone down. Just stick around, and you never know what you're going to get, really. Even though we've moved into blue hour, still might have come away with something that's decent. So I'm going to head back now, have a sandwich, bit of coffee, head home, and yeah, tomorrow I'll pop the photos in Lightroom and see what we've got. There was my trip to the northeast coast. So I really enjoyed that. It was great to get out. It was a good evening. Lovely to be walking up and around there on the coast, and the scenery was great. I was a bit disappointed with the photos in the end though, mainly because of the weather. The weather forecast had said that it was going to be dry and not that much cloud. And by the time sunset happened, it was pretty thick cloud, and it did rain a bit. So you can't control that. That's landscape photography. Sometimes you get disappointed. But I tried the best I could to get some half decent shots. And I think that it's not just, I can't just blame the weather, because I think I did things wrong on the day as well. Originally, if you remember, I set up looking out at the kind of archway rock formation in the sea, and I'd planned it out, and I knew that the sun was going to be behind me at that point. But I was just hoping that if there wasn't that much cloud, that it would just illuminate the sky where, you know, behind where the arch was. But just with the amount of cloud, there's just no way that was going to happen, and it just looked so flat there. So I gave up there. Went over to the cliffs, which kind of were in the direction where the sun was setting. But like I said, the cloud was just too thick. There was no sunset coming through. So at that point I was thinking, what can I do, what can I find, and started taking pictures of the lighthouse and things, which are nice. I like those photos. But as I was doing that, I realised that the cloud was starting to break a bit, and there was a lovely pink little band of sky just coming through over the cliffs. So I hurriedly kind of got my camera and tripod and everything and went back over to the cliffs. And literally in that time that it took me to get over there, it had gone again. Well, I might have just caught the tail end of it, and I've got a shot of that, but it was much nicer. If I'd just stayed in one place at the cliffs, probably, I would have probably got some much nicer shots. So that's what I've learnt. But that's what it is. This channel is all about. It's a learning process for me and hopefully for you as well. So I'm just going to go through some of the photos I did get on the day now. This first one is the lighthouse that I mentioned. After giving up on the cliffs, I went back to the archway section for a second time to see if I could get anything there, and the second time was just as bad as the first. I didn't get anything there. But when I turned round, the clouds were starting to break a bit behind the lighthouse, and so I captured this one. I wanted the grass in the foreground to be moving a bit, so I had the shutter slightly longer than usual for that type of shot. And that's just giving a little bit of movement in the grass. Yeah, it's not going to go in a portfolio or anything, but it's not too bad considering. And the second one was this one. So this was the one when the sky was just turning pink, and I ran over there as quick as I could, and it was much nicer than this. It was much pinker, and you might see that in the video, I'm not sure, but yeah, I just managed to catch the tail end of it, and yeah, I cropped it to this kind of letterbox format. I didn't think there was much else in the shot that I needed, much foreground or anything, so quite like the composition, the long letterbox format. And yeah, it's an okay shot. I think the light on the cliffs and stuff could be better. There's nothing too dramatic there. It's not too bad, but it's a little bit flat. But again, it was the best of a bad situation, so all in all, not too bad. And then finally, got this one, and it does look quite dramatic, this one. So this was moving into blue hour right at the end of the video, and it was starting to look pretty cool at that point. Although it was blue hour and there was not much light on the cliffs and things, there was this kind of sky that was looking fairly dramatic. I just worry a little bit that I've kind of overdone this photo. It's something I'm trying to get away from as I get better at editing. Just not overdoing it really, not putting too much saturation in, not too much contrast. And I think because of the bad conditions, and it'd gotten quite dark by this point, it maybe wasn't the best shot, and I've maybe tried to do too much in Lightroom to make it a good image. But you know, considering the conditions and everything, it's not too bad. I quite like it as an image by itself, but knowing what went into it, it could have been better. And if it had been a better shot to start with, I probably wouldn't have had to do so much editing in Lightroom, which would have made it look a little bit more natural. So I've done a bit of split toning on this one. That's what gives it that really kind of purpley look. I think the highlights I've got like a kind of pinky orange, and I wanted that because at the time it did look pinky. There was kind of a bit of pink coming out in the sky, so I wanted to emphasise that. So I've set the split tone highlights to pinky orange, and then the shadows to like kind of a purpley blue, and that's what gives it that overall tone. So yeah, that was my trip to the coast. I'll definitely be going back. I've learnt a lot in doing what I did on that evening, so I've learnt that I'll probably stay in one place next time. Maybe keep a better eye on the forecast. I'll maybe go back for sunrise as well next time, because I know it's going to be rising in the opposite direction, and I think it'll be falling on those cliffs at sunrise, the sunlight. So I think that'd look really good. And yeah, a learning process, but it's always a fun one. So I had a really good time. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video, and I hope you'll tune in for another video when I get an even more successful shot. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. The subscribers are going up now, it's really good. And yeah, give it a like if you liked it. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.